It's lovely to see you here. Even then, my husband would say to me, well, doesn't it make you nervous having to go out and talk to all these total strangers about your books? I said, well, it might, save that I have been a university professor for a long time. And if I can keep people awake at 7 o'clock in the morning talking about human anatomy and physiology, I could probably keep them awake at 7 o'clock in the evening if they came on purpose to hear me. I would usually walk into an auditorium filled with just about this many people when I taught human anatomy and physiology, as it was a very popular science elective. Everybody took it, including the football team, because they thought it would be easy. I'd walk in the morning and they'd all be sound asleep in the front row, these large inanimate blobs of flesh. Walk up to the edge of the platform and say, well, this morning, gentlemen, we're going to discuss the history of contraception. They'd all start blinking. Say, in days of old, when knights were bold, and condoms not invented, they wrapped old socks around their cocks and babies were prevented. Football players too. People always say to me, well, how did you get from being a scientist to being a novelist? I say, well, I wrote a book. Luckily, they don't make you get a license or anything. No, I'd always wanted to be a novelist from a very early age, but I came from a very conservative family background. My father was fond of saying to me, well, you're such a poor judge of character, you're bound to marry some bum, he said. So be sure you get a good education so you can support your children. So with this going on at home, I thought perhaps I wouldn't announce that I wanted to write novels because I knew this was sort of financially iffy. Excuse me, I woke up with something this morning, so if I burst into coughing fits, I'm not going to die or anything, I'm just coughing. That's a fair warning. Anyway, with this going on at home, I didn't announce I was going to write novels, and instead I went into science. I liked science, I was good at it. My doctoral dissertation was 400 pages entitled Nest Site Selection in the Pinyon Jay, Gymnorhinus cyanocephalus. Or as my husband says, why birds build nests where they do, and who cares anyway? But, I still wanted to write novels, and when I turned 35, I said to myself, well, Mozart was dead at 36, maybe you better get a move on here. And so I said, on my next birthday, I'm going to write a novel. I'm not going to show it to anyone, it's not for publication, I just need to know what it takes to write a novel. And I said, that seems to be the only way to learn one, because up to this point I had written all kinds of things. I'd written Walt Disney comic books, as she said. I'd written all the stuff you have to write while getting a PhD in science, plus all the stuff you have to write while having an academic career. Now, I had actually slid sort of sideways and was at this point an expert in scientific computation. It's really easy to be an expert if there's only 6 people in the world who do what you do, which was my position at the time. What happened was that I was hired at Arizona State University without a job description. I went to interview with them and they said, well, we have money for this position, and if we don't use it, the legislature will take it away again, so you're hired. And they said, we haven't got anything for you to do, so would you please invent your own research program? And while you're doing that, perhaps you could help Bob here, the assistant director, with his data. I said, Bob's got 10 years worth of data in cardboard boxes in his back office. You have a computer background, they said, which meant I had one class in Fortran programming, but it was one class more than any of them had. And they said, so you can help Bob get his data into the computer. This was the early 1980s. They thought that you still unscrewed the top and poured things in. So I spent the next 18 months of my life writing Fortran programs to analyze the contents of bird gizzards. This is what Bob did. The result of this was an 800-page monograph on the dietary habits of the birds of the Colorado River Valley. You see an increasing trend here from 400 pages to 800. I come by this naturally, Anyway, as I say, I still wanted to write a novel, and so I began thinking, well, nobody ever showed me how to write any of this other stuff. The other thing I wrote was software reviews, because while I did not marry a bum, I married a very nice man, who in fact I still have 37 years later. Love him, yeah. Working all right here? I keep feeling as though it's cutting out.
It is.
Okay. Can we do anything about that?
I think they're working on it too.
They're working on it, okay. Well, we'll go on talking here and hope for the best. If it doesn't work, we can go back to the handheld mic. Anyway, right. So anyway, I was forced to learn, first to figure out a way of making extra money, because while my husband was not a bum, he did quit work 3 months after our first child was born in order to start his own business. And I do have to say that in terms of financial stability, there's not that much to choose between an entrepreneur and a bum. So for the first few years while his business was getting going, I was in fact our sole support, and we did go on having children. So when I was looking for ways and means of earning extra money, I said, well, I only know one thing. I know how to write, and I know a lot about software. So I had, in fact, as a result of this accidental expertise, I had ended up founding a journal called Science Software Quarterly, which was for scientists who use computers in their work. Anyway, it was very academic looking, with me as founding editor and chief contributor. Anyway, I wrote a query letter to the editors of Byte, InfoWorld, and PC Magazine, and I enclosed with it a copy of my Science Software Quarterly and a copy of a Walt Disney comic book I had written entitled Nutrition Adventures with Orange Bird. And it was a real short letter. It said, "Dear sirs, as you can see from the enclosed, you won't find anyone who knows more about scientific and technical software than I do, and at the same time can write so as to appeal to a broad popular audience." Well, it's got immediate results, and within a year I was making as much freelancing for the computer press as I was at the university, which just goes to show how badly they pay the science faculty. Anyway, so sort of my position at the time when I decided to write. No, okay. Wait. All right. There's a reason why I write long novels is because I like digressions. There is, in fact, a reason why I'm telling you all this. One day I got a software package from Byte magazine, and with it a trial membership to CompuServe. Well, this was back in the mid '80s when it was before America Online, before chat rooms, before we're really out. Maybe we should switch back to the. We took it away, okay. We're kind of stuck then. Right. Well, we're going to do our best here. Let's see if we can do a little better of that. Yeah. Nothing like the tried and true here. Little manual dexterity. Okay. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, so Byte magazine had sent me the software package and a trial membership to CompuServe. CompuServe was one of the big information services at the time, and it had special interest groups for all kinds of things. Well, Byte said this software developer has a support forum for their software. And I'd like you to mention it in your review. So I said sure, and signed up and looked into it. Well, I had 4 hours of free connect time left. And so I said, well, what else is in here? I'm not wasting $120 worth of time. This was back when they charged you $30 an hour to be connected. And so I began poking around to see what else I could find. And I stumbled into a group of people called the Literary Forum. Now, these were people who liked books. It wasn't a writers group as such, but there were some writers there, both published and aspiring. But there were a lot of people who liked to read. And for someone with 2 full-time jobs and 3 small children, it was the ideal social life. So I signed up immediately and began hanging around there. Well, I'd been there for maybe a year when I decided that it was time to begin writing a novel. And I was not going to tell anyone what I was doing, including my husband, because he would have tried to stop me, not out of any objection to my writing a novel, but out of fear that I would drop dead from exhaustion over the 2 jobs and all that. And I knew he'd say, well, wait till my business is doing better and you can quit one of your jobs, wait till the kids are in school. And I knew if I waited, I might never do it. And so I said, no, I'm not going to tell him, I'm just going to do it. And I was not going to tell any of the people on the literary forum what I was doing either, because I'd seen so many people come through there talking about, this or that project, and then you'd never see a word of it. And I thought, well, I'm going to wait till I've actually done something before I tell anyone what I'm doing. And so that's where we were. So the next question was, well, fine, what kind of book am I going to write for practice? I had only 2 rules for myself about this. I said I will finish the book, no matter what shape I think it's in, and I will do my absolute best in the writing every day, because how will I know if I'm any good if I don't do my best, and how will I get better if I don't do my best? So I said, fine, those are the only 2 rules. Well, okay, what kind of book shall I write? Because I read everything and lots of it. And I said, well, I read maybe more mysteries than anything else. Maybe I should write a mystery. And then I said, no, mysteries have plots. I'm not sure I can do that. And so I said, okay, it's the easiest possible kind of book I could write for practice. No sense in making it hard. And I thought that for me, perhaps that would be a historical novel, because historical novels have no genre constraints. You can do anything in a